guys, this video is called Avoid Dating Single Mothers, okay, in 2025, but now it's 2026. But the same rules apply, guys, every year. There's no difference. So let's see what this guy is talking about, and we will discuss.
Hello, ladies. Men not wanting to date single mothers should not be taken as a personal thing, as a personal attack, because it's not so much you, but it's what comes along with a single mother. And, I know when I break this down a little bit, it's going to feel like a personal attack, but it's not. It's not. It's just an adaptation that women have taken on while they've been in this role as a single mother. And one of those things is the fact that women that are single mothers, they're not used to being submissive, or they don't know how to be submissive. And part of that is because they've been in a role for so long where they're the only authority in the house or in the room. They're used to giving out commands. They're used to providing financially. They're used to having this playing the soft skills, having the nurturing skills, along with carrying somewhat of the male skills or male abilities. And when it comes to nurturing children, so when a man gets into that environment or into that space, there's usually power struggle. There's usually conflict because they have never had to take the back seat. They have always been the authority. So when a man comes into a space like that, he wants to be the authority. He wants to be, especially if he's an alpha male, he wants to be the final voice, the final word. He doesn't want to be challenged, especially by a female. You guys are our helpmate. So we shouldn't be in a position or situation where we're struggling for leadership or struggling to be in charge. And typically you find that when it comes to single mothers. So naturally, that's a big turnoff for men.
It's a very big turnoff for men. And that's what keeps a lot of these women out here single. All right. And he mentioned, single mothers in general, they already have one foot in the grave when it comes to dating as it is. And a lot of them don't realize that. They think that they can go out and find something else. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of these women leave a lot of these men, because they think that they can find someone else. And in retrospect, technically that's true. I mean, they can go out and get another piece of meat. Okay. But what does that really entail? What does that really mean? Does it mean you can go find you a potential husband? No, because most of these women aren't even looking for that. A lot of these women aren't even looking for that. Okay. Or they think that they can find that, and when they go out and get it and they have kids, guys aren't looking at them the same as they would look at somebody who doesn't have kids. Okay. It's just the nature of the beast. I don't care how good you look, how attractive you are. That is a negative when you're out here in the dating scene with a lot of men. Okay. Especially when you get to the point where it's time to make it or break it. If you're going to commit to me or not. Usually when the guy gets to the edge of that porch and the woman is putting that pressure on him, hey, what are we? What are we doing here? I'm ready to go to the next level. Usually that guy is going to disappear. And that's just what it is, because he thinks about, the situation, the scenario. No man wants to jump into a losing battle. And that's just what that is when you're with somebody with kids that aren't yours.
We want somebody who's submissive, somebody who's going to listen and allow us to lead. And I know some women say, oh, naturally we want to fall into our feminine, their feminine side. But I think even if a man push you in your feminine energy, you still won't know how to be submissive because you never had to be it before. Most think that they can be it once they find a man that makes them feel safe or provides for them, or a man that they trust. A lot of them say, oh, then I'll be submissive. But
they have no problem being submissive in one aspect, in one area, and that's usually the bedroom. If it's not that, then yes, you're going to have a hard time doing that. When you put that thing on them, oh yeah, they get feminine real quick. So my thing is, if you can do it there, you should be able to do it anywhere. Okay, because you can choose how to be when you want to be. That's what I'm saying. If there's a man out there who a woman is very interested in, she will bend over backwards to make him feel like a man. 9 times out of 10, that's how it goes down. Okay? Part of the problem with dating women for a lot of men is that you're dating women who don't think of you in that way. They don't have you high up on the totem pole. You're somebody that they're just messing with, right? Maybe you can take them out, spend a little something on them here, do something there. Maybe they even sleep with you from time to time, but you're not their top priority, and they treat you as such. So whenever a woman is acting strange, acting funny style, and is not allowing you to be you, or has an issue, or is always bucking the system when it comes to what you want, that female is not for you. That female does not love you. She's not into you the same way that you may think you're into her. That's just how it is. They're really simple signs to see that you can check for. And a lot of men refuse to see that.
If you never had to practice being in that role, or if you've never had experience being in that role, why do you think you can be in that role all of a sudden? That's like me thinking I'm going to be successful at taking the final shot in a basketball game, but I've never been in a position where I had to take the final shot. I've never been in that leadership role. So why do I think I'm going to be a leader out the gate? So as a man, I'm very hesitant when it comes to dating a single mother, because especially if she's been a single mother for years. Before, when she was with a man, either dating or married to him, maybe she was in a submissive role. Maybe she was back in her feminine energy. But after all these years, I don't know if she can become that again. So much has changed. She's been in a leadership role for so many years or so many months that I don't know if she's willing to even give up that control. And a lot of times women don't want to give up that control. They still want to make the decision, so that creates conflict. And I don't want to argue with a woman. I don't want to argue with somebody who is supposed to be taking a back seat to my decisions.
And that's why you don't proceed. The minute you smell smoke, you leave. That's what you should do. The minute you smell smoke, I don't care how bad it hurts. I don't care how bad it burns. Let that shit burn. Famous words of Usher, let it burn. Because you'll be thanking yourself later. Trust me, you will. When you get that first red flag, you got to go. And a lot of us, especially younger men, they'll see the flags, but it's that ass, it's the sex, it's whatever that's holding them there. And next thing you know, they'll wake up with a child by this woman. Next thing you know, they're just another baby daddy. Next thing you know, they're in a tragic situation. And you can save yourself a lot of heartbreak and turmoil and pain if you just disperse when you see the smoke.
So that is one of the things that men run into when we try to date single mothers. Another thing is that there's no spontaneity. I typically, if I do date a single mother, I can't date a single mother that has kids that are like 4 and below, because there's so much responsibility as a mother when they're real young like that. As a mother, you should just be focusing on raising that child and worrying about dating later down the road when that child's older. And there's a lot to deal with when a child is super young like that. So usually when I see a woman with a child that's like a newborn or something like that, or like a real infant,
get the fuck out. That's what you need to do. Now, as a kid, I remember so many times, dealing with these type of women where, they had a small baby or whatever. But at that time, all I cared about was the box. Okay. I'm trying to run away with the prize. And you put up with what you put up with to get that. And then pretty much after you get it, you're pretty much done, because you tell yourself, man, I got to go through this every time. Every time I go over here, I got to wait for her to put the baby to sleep. I got to, wait and ride out the constant wake ups and having to go back in there and deal with that baby. And then, for an hour and a half, 2 hours before that baby is finally knocked out cold and we can get to business. And I got to put up with that. And then you have to act as if, you're really into, dealing with someone else's child. You need an Oscar. You need to be trained, to be one of the best actors out here to play these games. And, nobody can do that and sustain that for so long. You can only do that so long. And as a young man out there like that, that's what the game was. You play the game to get the ass, and after that, you disappear. You fade away. And then she wonders, why'd you stop calling? What's going on? I thought everything was good. I thought you liked me. I thought this was cool. And of course we tell them that, but in retrospect, guys, that's not how we felt. We did not want to deal with the child. We did not want to go and take responsibility for a child that's not ours. I mean, that's just what it is. The true facts, straight up. Can't get any realer than that. There's not one man who was out there dating who has probably seen this type of scenario before and not thought some of those thoughts.
That's a red flag for me. That's a no-go for me. So I like the little sweet spot. I think the youngest I'll probably do is like, I don't know, 6. The child has a little bit of independency to himself. And, I don't have to, I don't know, so focused on her taking care of a baby. Like, it's just too much. It's too much. So I typically like women, and the older the child, the better. I'm more willing to date a single mother the older the child is.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. There's a lot of different things that come with both of those scenarios. A lot of red tape. They're just different problems. They really are. That older child is the one that's going to be telling you, you're not my dad, when you try to tell him or her something. That older child is going to be the one to go back and tell her or his mother that he doesn't like the way, he's being treated by you, or he didn't like the bass in your voice, whatever reason it may be. Okay. Or just throwing the real father in your face saying, you're not my father, or where's my dad, whatever. It's just so many scenarios that is not in your favor. And why should you have to even worry about that? Am I sitting here on this video telling you guys that never, ever talk to a female with a child and it could never, ever work? Of course not. But a lot of people watching this video will assume that and will say that, even though I just said what I just said, right? There are exceptions to the rule. There's always an exception. But this channel focuses on the majority. The majority of men in this scenario would not be helping themselves by putting themselves there. Okay? It's not going to work out for the majority. And these are the problems that will be happening.
Especially like if they're in high school, cool. That kid can stay at home alone. I don't have to worry about her having to find a babysitter or her having to find family members to watch the child. And that's another thing. Like, another thing I look for is, hey, do you have family that lives around you? And the reason I ask that question is because it tells me your support system. It tells me if I plan something with you, I know that you can get somebody to watch your child. It's difficult dating women that don't have a support system, because then they have to find a babysitter, if they even trust babysitters, because some people don't trust people with their kids. So that makes it even more difficult. So I have to know what your support system looks like. I have to know the age of the child, and I have to know how many children you have. Will you even have time to date? How much energy can you give to dating, especially if I'm intentional with my dating? If I'm in a place where I'm serious about dating someone, how much time and energy can you give to this, to nurture this? So back to spontaneity. So everything, when you're dating a single mother, everything has to be almost planned. Like, you have to find time on the schedule. I can't pop up with just like a random event for us to go to. Hey, I saw this person is coming to town tomorrow. Hey, you trying to go? I can't do that.
You definitely can't pull up and ask for no butt. You know what I'm saying? You can't ask for nothing like that because, you know, I got to put Troy to sleep. It's going to take me, you know, he needs his juice and he needs his ravioli, and then I can lay him down. Then I got to pat him and be there. There's all kinds of scenarios, guys. And he's talking about one of them. Yeah, you can't do that. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. Is part of of dealing with women with kids. And the older you are trying to date, you're going to run into that a lot, because there are going to be a lot of women who are divorced or who have had failed relationships and have kids as a result of that. And that's just what you got to deal with. That's why it's so hard for men out here sometimes to date, because, man, it's not a good look out here. And then a lot of these women who are in these scenarios, they think they haven't done nothing wrong. They think that they are God's gift and they should be, you know, placed on a pedestal and be treated as such, right? And they think that they, you know, deserve that storybook ending that they watch in these movies while they're eating their bonbons late at night by themselves. That's the dream that they've sold themselves. And so they refuse, a lot of them refuse to even acknowledge that, you know, those things aren't out there for them, and that they're living in a fairy tale world, and it's hard to pull them out of that. And a lot of them will go on believing that until their last days. I have so many women in my life that, you know, I hate to say are single, who are successful. Don't get it twisted, but are single. And I don't honestly know if they will ever get married. It's crazy out here.
I gave her no time to plan. I gave her no time to find a babysitter. I gave her no time to ask a family member if they can watch the kids. So spontaneity is gone, which makes a relationship exciting. That's gone. Everything has to be planned. Everything has to be on a schedule. And I'm the type of person, at least in the beginning, I like a little bit of spontaneity. Even when I'm in a full-fledged relationship, I like spontaneity. It keeps things interesting. I like doing things on the fly and maybe not telling you, hey, get dressed. We're going to go somewhere. I'm going to take you somewhere. She may ask, where are you going to take me? I may, you know, don't worry about it. Just be ready. I can't do that with somebody that has kids. It has to be planned. And I have to tell her where we're going, how long we're going to be out. You know, so it just makes things difficult. If I have a good night with you, I can't even bring you over. Or I can't even come over because you got to get the kids from the babysitter, or you got to pick the kids up from your mom's house. You know, and as somebody that's trying to date and have a little bit of spontaneity in this relationship, especially in the beginning, it's hard to do with a single mother.
I mean, look, I'm going to end the video right here, guys. I mean, what else do you need to really say? You know, he's pretty much stated it, and there's probably a lot of other reasons that I could come up with, and maybe some of you guys could come up with, but I'm not sitting here saying that dating single mothers are all bad, but I am saying that dating most are, okay, in most situations. So do with that what you will, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like and subscribe button. And also, if you want me to react to something maybe you guys found, I'd be more than happy to react to that. So send it to me and I will definitely check that out. With that being said though, guys, I will see you guys in the next video.